As a U.S.-Israel-led war in Iran continues, Prime Minister Mark Carney is changing his position on the attacks. Soon after the original strikes, Carney said Canada supported the Americans' efforts to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. The Prime Minister now says Canada's initial support for the strikes comes, quote, with regret. Joining us to discuss Canada's position on the war is former Minister of Foreign Affairs Lloyd Axworthy. Thank you so much for being with us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
I want to start with your op-ed that you penned following Mark Carney's initial statement posted on social media. You were critical of the Prime Minister. He spoke once again today. He said he was clarifying Canada's position. I'm wondering if your stance changed at all.
Well, I'm glad to see the Prime Minister sort of reversing himself a little bit. But this is not a matter of regret. This is a serious matter of announcing a fundamental change in Canadian foreign policy, one that I think has immediate risk to our own security. Look, we have spent decades developing an architecture that provided restraints against big powers throwing their weight around. And nobody has throwing their weight around more than Mr. Trump. This is the 8th time since he's become president in his second term that he's used military force against another weaker, smaller country. And when we say regret, what we should be saying is that Donald Trump should be abiding by the international law, the UN Charter, and the commitment to have an international order. And I think, by the way, that he's not leveling exactly with Canadian people. He keeps saying, well, we have to stop the Iranians from developing nuclear weapons. Well, there was negotiations going on at the very moment that Donald Trump released his attack. There were attempts, and by the way, 3 or 4 years before him, Obama had negotiated a multilateral agreement restraining nuclear development in Iran, and Trump tore it up. So when we say there's not been any success in the international system, no, the success has been because Mr. Trump provided a wrecking ball to that position.
And I believe the Prime Minister used the words as he called for a de-escalation. Meanwhile, you have Minister McGuinty, who is the Minister of National Defense. He used the word ceasefire. Is there a difference in that language? Is that messaging on par?
Well, there's an old saying that when you unleash the dogs of war, you're never sure where they're going to run to. And what we're witnessing right now is an incredible expansion of the conflict in the Middle East. It's now involving 7 or 8 countries, major civilian casualties, the destruction of a girls' school. Excuse me. We're watching. You just had on your newscast the impact it's having on oil production. So when we say let's have de-escalation, I think the response is Israel and the United States is hell-bent on destroying what they think is the regime in Iran. And I don't think they have any intention of pulling back there. And so calling for escalation is a nice word, but it's not very practical. What we should be saying is that there should be actions taken right now to provide sanctions, to begin looking at, through the United Nations, how do we begin to respond to this major conflict, which has every sense that it's going to grow and expand.
We heard Donald Trump speaking about Spain. He called Spain terrible. He says that he also called to cut off all dealings and trade with Spain here. I'm wondering, behind closed doors here in Canada, amongst our Canadian officials, how much weight does our own personal interest and relationship with the U.S. play in how top officials like Mark Carney are responding to the U.S.'s operation in Iran? For instance, trade being one of those interests for Canada.
Oh, no, I think you're right. I think you put your finger on it. That what this was really, I think, a result of is the efforts by those who are managing our trade policy of the United States to think that we have to continually appease Mr. Trump. We can't say anything or do anything that may make him angry. But we do know we've tried that many times up to now, and it hasn't worked. And so I think it's just as important for Canada to be seen as an independent uh, player in the international community, defending the rule of law and telling big powers that they are sort of not having a responsibility to decide who to attack when and ever they want. And I think that we kind of tarnished that position. And I would hope the government will do some reflecting and rethinking about how it can restore that sense that Canada is a middle power that takes a leadership in trying to restrain the absolute use of power by the Mr. Trump who wants to, he actually has imperial ambitions.
Okay, our time is up, so we will leave it there. Lloyd Axworthy, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us.
I appreciate the invitation. Thank you.